Hello and welcome to the No Fear podcast. Today's guests are Eli and Avante of Posh. Posh is an event management platform that's revolutionizing the entertainment industry. Join us for an awesome conversation into raising capital, building awesome product, and disrupting a legacy industry such as entertainment. This conversation was one of my favorites. Enjoy.
Welcome to the No Fear podcast with your hosts, Noah and Ophir, where we sit down to discuss the journeys of accomplished young professionals who have taken action towards manifesting a career and a life that go far beyond the ordinary. Each week, we bring to you a young professional currently achieving success in entrepreneurship, STEM or other forward-thinking, innovative sectors. Please enjoy today's episode of the No Fear podcast, brought to you by House & Hughes, shophouseandhughes.com. The perfect destination for thousands of curated wall art designs.
Eli and Avante, thanks for hopping on. How you guys doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. If we can start first with the Posh journey. What is Posh and where did it come from? How did it start?
Yeah, it's a good question. Originally, Eli and myself were actually freelancers in the event space. So I was DJing. He was doing photo video work and creating graphics and things for events. We were both getting treated like garbage, right? We were working for a lot of older people that were like twice our age that just kind of wanted to take advantage of us, didn't pay us on time, gave us false promises. And so we had both built startups in high school in the past, right? And so essentially we had this entrepreneurial tickle that we like to call it. And so we stopped working for these other dudes and we started Posh actually as an event brand. And so we were actually just hosting events for the college community around New York for about 6 months right before the pandemic ensued. And in month 5, after using all these products like Eventbrite and, whatever you might have it, there's, hundreds of competitors, we realized like nothing met the mark. And so Eli, being the whiz kid he is, he was also a photo video guy, but also an engineer. And he was like, let's build a better product. So he actually built us an MVP of the product just for our own use, for our own events. And we used it for 2 events, crushed it, doubled from like 200 to 400 people per event. And then right after that, the pandemic hit. And that was kind of the genesis of us realizing like, okay, let's go from being the user to being the platform. And essentially, ditching our event brand, taking the pandemic to understand the space more and building out that white labeled MVP for other people to use.
Okay, I do want to preface by saying this. Back in October, I was actually in New York for that whole month, and I was heading to a concert of which the Posh platform is what I used to buy a ticket. And I do have to say the UI was far better than an Eventbrite or anything that I had ever experienced. So when Sasha recommended you guys mentioned Posh, I was like, where do I know that name from? But I'd used your service before. So I want to say the UI was very good. The UX was very good. I was very impressed with it. So can you talk more about the business model, right? How does Posh make money? How does it really operate in that regard?
Yeah. So essentially we make 10% plus 99 cents per ticket on top of every ticket sold. What's really awesome about our business model is that we actually don't charge the organizer receiving all the value from our product. So you sign up and you want to throw the No Fear podcast party and you want to charge $100 for every ticket, right? And you're going to charge your $100. You're going to get all of our awesome event management tools. You're going to get free unlimited SMS blasts. You're going to get access to our kickback affiliate program, white labeled pages, all this awesome stuff that's going to help you sell out your event and manage it much easier for free. And what's going to happen is your customers are going to pay an additional $10.99 on top of the $100 ticket.
To put it bluntly, it would then be like a marketing suite for a number of venues, or yes, for venues. Then is that a decent way to put it?
Not really venues, more like what we would call it is like organizations. And why that is like, again, No Fear could actually very well have an event arm. We're seeing any brand, especially in 2023, that the pandemic is, pretty much far behind us. A lot of brands are using events as a marketing channel, but B, a revenue stream to take in some more money by exposing their audience to their brand in an in-person format.
Okay, being that it is a very competitive landscape, you had mentioned that there are tons of competitors in this space. How do you guys aim to set yourself apart?
Yeah, so like you said, starting off, it was really product. We have a white labeled product, which means that there's very little Posh branding across the site. And Eventbrite and Dice and some of our bigger competitors are the opposite. Their logo is everywhere. You know exactly what site you're on. The analogy we use a lot is Amazon versus Shopify. So when you go on Amazon, what's the last thing that you bought on Amazon?
Well, all of this wall art is sold on Amazon. We're pretty big Amazon sellers. But to be honest with you, maybe a book or something?
A book. Yeah. Do you remember who the publisher of the book was?
Penguin Books. I buy their a lot.
Okay. Okay. So good. So that's pretty rare. But usually when you buy something on Amazon, like you buy toilet paper or something like that, you don't know what the company was or the manufacturer. Whereas when you're on a Shopify site, it's the opposite. You might be getting merchandise for the No Fear podcast, and you know that you're on the No Fear site. You have no idea that it was even built on Shopify. So we're going more the latter route, where we didn't want people to know that they were on Posh. And then we just snuck in some subtle branding in a few places, like when you load onto the page. But it's mostly about empowering the user to have their branding everywhere. So that was how we initially set ourselves apart. And now, like Avante was saying, we have a massive suite of other marketing tools that you can utilize. We have really, really solid financial infrastructure. So we have faster payouts than everyone, and instant kickbacks and a bunch of other cool things on the money moving side. And going forward, now we're pushing a little bit more on the social side and coming up with a bunch of viral growth tools and really fun activity sections and interactive guest lists where you can see who else is going to the event and really feel like you're part of a community.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. How, from a product standpoint, how has the product creation process been for you guys? Have you guys hired on the team? How's that team looking so far?
Yeah, I actually did it myself like the entire first year, which was really stressful. And then we got super lucky. Avante had met this guy, Ali, at Stevens Institute, which is a really, really good school to source talent from in the city. It's right in New Jersey. So him and his partner, Mike, came in and helped us rebuild what I had built the first year in a different stack that was a lot more solid and better performing. And then from there, I think we're up to 7 engineers who just hired out once we were on the right stack. And it's been such a fun journey because when I started, I knew literally nothing about DevOps, deployment flows, like how to properly plan a sprint out or plan a feature out. And now we have a really, really good processes for deving out stuff, everything from design to the feature conception to documents that detail how we're going to integrate it into the product. So we've really gone from 0 to 80 or 90.
Good work, guys. Good work. Obviously, having 7 engineers on the team is very pricey. Overhead, I would assume, is continuing to inch upward and upward. Have you guys had to raise capital, and how's that process been?
Yeah, for sure. Had to is actually a funny word. I think it's really just a matter of how fast you want to scale. Right. So we actually, unlike a lot of companies, we're a very sustainable business. We don't throw money at marketing. A lot of the larger competitors in the space actually pay the larger users to stay exclusive to their products so that they can forget about product innovation and turn it into a business school case study. So you look at some of the largest venues in New York, they're getting paid 6 to 7 figures per year just to use a product like Dice or Ticketmaster. On our end, we won't pay you to use us, but what we will do is create fun, different ways to essentially give you more access to capital in a faster, more efficient way, whether that's our daily payouts feature, our affiliate model, which lets you get more sales quicker with essentially turning your attendees into affiliates, cash advances, where we'll advance ticketing revenue in advance of the event or in advance of the ticket sales being done, and all these other interesting things. But with all that said, we've raised 3 rounds of funding now, a pre-seed and then 2 seed rounds. That's a function of the market, how it works. And essentially the whole idea was, we got to a certain point where we were like, all right, we have a lot of users. We need to hire more people on the growth team to support these users and to keep growing faster and not hit a plateau. And on the engineering side, we have so many users that we have, hundreds of feature requests and a massive product roadmap, and we need to fulfill that product roadmap. And so we can still keep growing pretty effectively and growing the business in a sustainable way where, kind of early employees would make good money and we'd kind of be living comfortably, but we wouldn't be going after that real vision we have to build a unicorn that really revolutionizes this industry without raising capital.
I like how you put that you guys responsibly grow your business rather than throw a ton of dollars at marketing expenses. Like what you do see with people oftentimes raising their first bits of money, that their runway is a lot shorter than they actually imagined. And before you know it, they're running basically a business with like a weight tied to the ankle, not ever being able to become profitable, not ever being able to grow, and hiring exorbitantly. And before you know it, any business, their core function should be the ability to make money and return capital back to their shareholders. And if you're not doing that, which we do see often in the venture space, that becomes trouble. Was it difficult? So it's great you guys are doing this in a very responsible way. The venture fundraising process, how is that for you guys? Has it dried up? Has it been difficult? Is it still easy? What's that like so far?
Yeah, so it's going to be announced soon. So we'll talk about it. But we just closed another funding round about 3 weeks ago, and it definitely wasn't easy by any means. But I think the biggest thing is there's the market right now is extremely dried up, as I'm sure you're familiar, because of a lot of, especially in tech, all these tech investors kind of over leverage themselves on crypto and Web3 investments at exorbitant valuations that were at 100x multiples and things like that. And then when the chickens and hens came home to roost on Web3, a lot of these guys who even would invest in us, unfortunately, they had to be a lot more conservative. Their LPs wanted them to write a lot less checks, and so when we went to market to raise towards the end of last year, that's kind of the environment we were playing in. The second factor that made it more difficult is the event space. A lot of these traditional tech VCs really aren't that interested in the space we're building in. They don't, I think people want to invest in something that they envision themselves using or getting value from. And if someone's a little bit older or they don't really understand, or they're not really social or extroverted, they might not understand the value that events can play in de-stressing you and helping you build your network and all the positive effects that we all know that events and live in-person experiences can really bring to the table. But if you don't relate to those, value adds, then you wouldn't see why software needs to exist in the world to improve that space. The third factor is that as a payments business, a lot of VCs have a certain very specific model that they like to model things out by. That essentially plugs in your KPIs and says, all right, this is what it's going to take to get to a $10 billion, $100 billion valuation. With the payments business, it's a lot different because we don't have MRR. We don't have monthly recurring revenue where someone's paying a subscription like Netflix or something like that, right? Where you can essentially project revenue a lot easier because someone can make a purchase. You went to that event a few months ago, but you might not go to another event for a year. Is that my problem as the platform for not retaining you? We can improve how many events you go to by re-engaging you and sending you different cadences of emails and things. But realistically, it's based on whether the organizers that you have a preference of attending events of host another event again on Posh. And so really it comes down to organizer retention. But payments businesses are just a lot harder to essentially model out for these VCs. And so we really had to, work on explaining the vision, explaining how we model out these KPIs, and explaining that, we kind of finding the VCs that understand that even though the market was not so great right now, that that's not something that the event industry was affected by. And that actually events are essentially pretty, I'm forgetting the word, but very sustainable, recession proof is what I'm looking for. In the sense that people lose money, they still want to go out and have a good time and meet new people. People make a lot of money, they still definitely want to go out and meet new people. But we're a social animal. We always want to meet new people. So events is actually a very, very recession-proof industry. And if you look at the numbers of what we were doing during this economic downturn, we've still been growing, very, very well.
So you guys are seeing impressive growth year over year. How are you actually facilitating that growth? What is your marketing effort to bring on a number of different organizers? How's that been? Because you did mention 25 million or so in ticket sales, which is a crazy high number. So how are you guys growing your list of organizers?
Yeah, we're actually 90% inbound So what that means is almost all referrals, word of mouth, and then CTAs that are built into the site. Spent a lot of time analyzing, like we have heat maps of where people have clicked around on the site, how long their session time is, and what type of call to actions tend to convert them from an attendee to an organizer. And that's where a lot of our new organizers come from, is they actually just bought a ticket to someone else's event. And then they're like, oh, wait, I throw events. This is a dope site. I should use it. It's white labeled. And we spend a lot of time thinking about how to improve that conversion rate a lot, because it's so cheap. Like the customer acquisition cost is so much different when you just convert from attendee to organizer, instead of us running crazy amounts of outbound ads, which we haven't seen work that well. And it's really not necessary. So yeah, we're almost entirely inbound, and that's what we're really focused on the next year too, is just strengthening our ecosystem and really making a very, very fast flywheel of users. Yeah, that's what I'd say. And we also, by the way, we also just launched a huge content marketing effort, which everyone should be on the lookout for. We're launching a podcast next week called Hosted by Posh, which is with our top organizers, which is going to be really awesome.
That's great. So what I keep hearing is a real want and will to improve product. And you could see the dividends as a result of great product. I mean, the fact that you guys are a startup, the fact that you guys are not relying on marketing dollars to grow your business, I mean, that's a very good sign. So that's a very healthy thing to show that there is a delta between, the product that you've created and the legacy products. I mean, think about it. Eventbrite is such a massive business. And then generally when you think in the ticketing space, like that's what you think of. But if you start to have organizers move over to Posh, I mean, I'll tell from my experience, Posh was a better experience, 100%. And I do like the competitive advantage there that you have with white labeling, where the branding is really on the organization side, because if I were an organization, that's what I'm thinking. I want to push my organization. That makes total sense. Whereas Eventbrite, it's kind of like a plug-in, basically like a market maker. But Eventbrite has generally been a pretty, a mediocre experience. And I'm impressed to see that you guys are really moving product ahead and improving that space. What is next for Posh? How are you guys looking to increase the product offering? What are some of these feature requests looking like? Can you tell me a little bit more about the next step for Posh as we move into the future?
Yeah. So, coming fresh off this funding round, we're hiring, getting to the end of that, expanding the team and kind of just building the base for what's next. And really the goal right now is to essentially build out tools for any stakeholder that has interest in the event space to get their feet wet and start making money with whatever value they can provide. And so the first step towards that, has already been kicked off about 6 months ago with the release of our kickback feature. And what that is a way for any organizer to create an offer that attendees can redeem for bringing their friends to the event. So you have the No Fear podcast event, and I'm your biggest fan of No Fear. I bought the first ticket that was on sale. And then I see this CTA after checkout that's like, hey, Avante, if you want to bring friends to this event, you can make 10% on every ticket that they sell. Just attach your debit card, go through a simple onboarding process. So I onboard in about 10, 15 seconds. I get my link without even speaking to you. And now I'm posting it on social media, sending it in my group chats. And it looks like the normal event page. So no one's like, why are you trying to make money off me, man? They're just checking out because they think that I'm interested and I'm going. And I'm just sending it as I would anyways. I'm sure you send a link to your friends anyways if you're like, hey, this looks cool, we should go, right? And so essentially it's just putting fuel on that fire of this social awareness of these events. But it's putting, that attendee's name on it, which is a lot more important and a lot stronger than an Instagram ad is going to do or anything else is, that social proof. And so through that, we've, onboarded a few thousand affiliates onto the platform, but they've all self-onboarded post-checkout. The next step is to create a marketplace of offers that these affiliates and anyone can browse in their city to go make money by bringing friends to events. And so this can be used from college kids to mega influencers with like 5 million followers or even massive brands to essentially monetize their social influence to bring people somewhere.
That's great. What I do love about the business and everything that I'm hearing is your willingness to hear your customers and produce product based on what the customers need. Do you feel like it's a competitive advantage for you guys being so nimble and rather small compared to an Eventbrite, and being able to basically move where the market wants you to move.
Yeah. Our engineering power is being a lean engineering team is just a massive advantage over a company like Eventbrite. Eventbrite is built on legacy software that is probably really, really, really difficult to update. And just the fact that I'm sure, and I could be totally wrong, but I'm sure that most of the engineers on the ground at Eventbrite, they're working for a massive public company. They're not incentivized to grind all day, every day, and really feel ownership and excitement over the product. Our engineering team not only is talented, but they're almost all ex-nightlife people. We have ex-nightlife photographers, DJ, not even ex, they still do it on the side, but they genuinely love the event space. And so we have a passionate, talented, hardworking engineering team. And yeah, it's definitely a massive advantage over these slower moving. I guess the other companies are like T-Rexes with really small arms. And we're more like this lean, I don't even know,
Velociraptor
running around. Velociraptor, yeah.
I like it. And with you guys at the helm, you guys are the two co-founders, correct? So for example, I own a business as well down here in Florida. We're a team of about 35 or so, and we're a large Amazon brand. So my brother and I started our business together. We've been partners in this business for about 5-6 years. And obviously there's a lot of hurdles. Relationships change a lot in terms of the experiences that you guys have. How have you guys been able to mesh together as like a yin and a yang? And how's that relationship between you guys unfolded as you guys have seen this tremendous growth? You guys have had great success so far. How has that happened?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's good that we kind of started out as friends, and it wasn't like something where I had an idea and I was looking for someone technical to go build it. I feel like that starts a lot of relationships off very poorly. And every, engineer has people hitting them up like to go build something. So we really, doesn't start things off well, and it starts things off on a very transactional way. And so me and Eli are really just passionate about the space, passionate about innovation from day one, and just kind of connected on that. And soon after that, we just kind of started thinking on ideas and things like that. But we were definitely, talking about other ideas, and it was really just something that kind of came as the fruits of my knowledge of the space and my relationships that I had pre-existing from DJing and things, and his ability to innovate on product so quickly just meshed very well. But yeah, I think we definitely have everything that like I'm good at, or everything that he's good at, I'm definitely not good at, and like I think vice versa for most things. And so I think it was very awesome. Our birthdays are also a day apart, so I think it was meant to be.
That's
yeah,
funny.
I was just
My brother
say,
and I are 3 days apart, so it's like a co-founder thing, huh?
I think it's as simple as like contrasting talents and similar passions is how I'd summarize it. We're both passionate about the exact same things, but our talents didn't really overlap at all, which is really good because we wouldn't step on each other's toes in the beginning. Avante was really going hard on the industry growth side. I was going hard on building, but we were still both passionate about the vision of the business. And we know a lot of other co-founder pairs that are at similar stages as us. And I think all the ones we've seen survive and like keep up with us over the years are pretty much the exact same partnerships where it's two people that have very different skill sets, but are interested in the same thing.
I think that's so important because it's hard to run a business alone. I mean, my brother and I talk about this often. I wouldn't have the gas to do something alone like that. And it is always nice to, have someone to lean on, because I'm sure, as you guys know, there is always hits the fan so quickly. There's always things that break. There's always things that happen. And when you have that person to lean on, that is my kind of like, I look at that as a big advantage compared to, solo entrepreneuring. I don't know how people do that, but power to them. As the saying goes, the sum of its parts is stronger than the whole. Or rather, maybe I botched that, but you get the point. So I love to hear that. I definitely love to hear that. It is just you two as the founding team, though, correct? Who was that initial hire, and what role have they made for you guys? Or rather, what role have they fulfilled for you guys?
I don't think we have a specific person that was initial hire, just because we got our first 3 or 4 core people at the same time. Yeah, but definitely, I guess I'd say David and Owen are two. Owen works under Avante on growth. David works under me on engineering. And they're probably the 2 core team members that have been with us for the longest now, both super passionate about the space. And I think what's interesting with them is they're both super talented, but at the time they actually didn't have much experience. David was fresh out of school for CS, didn't really know a ton about the stack. And Owen was literally a summer intern for us that worked his way up. So I think what's interesting with them compared to other startups is other startups may just hire someone super experienced and talented. We went for people that were amazing to work with, are great team members, and are super driven because we knew they could learn everything else. And so I think we like are really glad that we made that decision over trying to like right off the bat, just trying to get some nerdy, like super smart person that wasn't necessarily passionate about the space. I don't know. Would you agree, Avante?
100%. Yep. That's a big thing is for us is culture. We'd rather have someone who's passionate about the space than someone who's, you know, extremely, extremely bright, but doesn't necessarily care about what we're working on. Because if you don't care about what you're doing every day, you're going to come and you're going to show that, and you're going to wear that on your sleeve, and you're going to bring the team down, and it's going to come off to users, it's going to come off in the product. And you can really see that at a lot of these larger startups. I mean, you go to Dice, one of our biggest competitors, just raised $120 million. And we were just scrolling through their Glassdoor ratings the other day, and it's just negative rating after negative rating. And you can see that in like the product, and you can see that in when you talk to users, and users are like, yeah, I don't really like it that much, but like they paid me to stay here. So like, I like the check. And like that overall like vibe, you can definitely see it in so many places, but I think it starts by hiring the wrong people, and then it kind of spreads from there.
Right. And like you just mentioned, they just raised all this money. The marketing expenses of locking people in, I mean, at a certain point, I would imagine that subsides, right? That's not a natural growth strategy. And again, like you said, I love how you guys continue to always go back to product. And I do think that, a company like Dice, I have used them in the past as well. I would say it was an inferior experience. And so naturally, power to you guys, continue to focus on product. That's exactly what it's all about. We predicate this podcast on young, successful entrepreneurs who've done extraordinary things in the early age. And you guys definitely fall within the confines there. So I wanted to ask you guys about your a moment in your career, which we call the no fear moment, where you guys had extraordinary circumstances that were difficult to reach, or rather difficult to overreach. What have you guys done? What is that type of moment that you've had where you've really beat the odds and continue to grow this business?
Yeah, I guess for me, I'll actually stray a little bit away from the business, but just the quintessential, just leaving school. Because I feel like I come from a kind of an academic family, and I also was really into school growing up. And so I've pictured myself getting a 4-year degree and like going through school and then getting a normal job my entire life. And so Avante and I making the decision, and credit to Avante because he took the leave before I did. But doing that was like a really, really big leap of faith. And I'm so happy that we did that, because I'm just way happier on a daily basis because I was not enjoying school at the time. But anyway, it definitely did take a ton of like mental strength, just because that's one of the one decisions I think where some of the closest people around me were like, I don't know if that's a great idea. And it's really hard to like go against people that you've looked up to your entire life and you've always leaned on them to make decisions. That was one of like the first times I think I made a big decision where I went against everyone, and it actually worked out amazingly. So yeah, I guess leaving school would be my big like no fear moment.
Yeah, there's just so many for me that I'm trying to think through. I feel like mine is kind of like a effervescent moment that kind of always exists, which is like patience. In terms of just like, we do see like large accounts that we have a build a relationship with and that like we really want to work with, and the product, like it just suits their needs so well, and they'll still go with a larger competitor strictly for the cash. And I think a lot of times that used to get us down. But over time, we've, like you said, been more and more focused on product, and just been able to kind of have no fear in like understanding that the vision we have is what we're going to go after and what's going to be successful in the long run. And so like we've cared less and less about like, shoot, like that big venue that we really, really wanted to work with just got paid $500,000 by Dice and we can't match it, because that's fine. That's just $500,000 less that Dice has in their bank for runway. And so realistically, at the end of the day, product will always prevail. And I think it's just a matter of being patient and kind of not getting distracted by what others are doing when you're so confident in your vision that you know that that's what's going to succeed in the long run.
Love that. Love that. Guys, as we wrap up, where can our viewers find you on your socials?
You can find us at posh.vip on Instagram. Posh.vip is also our domain. Posh Group NYC is our Twitter, I think. I don't know. They didn't give us posh.vip on Twitter. No dots.
But yeah, check out the new podcast we have dropping, hosted by Posh. It's going to be really lit. And we appreciate also being on this podcast. We love podcasts.
Sounds good, guys. Hey, Avante, Eli, thanks for hopping on.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the No Fear podcast, brought to you by House & Hughes. For more information about our show, visit thenofearpodcast.com. If you enjoy this podcast, be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok for insights into future episodes.